Alright. Let me let me think about what happened so far. So let's see. I'm trying to remember. So basically we're going through the fifth story. We've been being told, and it's a little complicated, but we've been told in the mansion in present time, back at in a weird space where time doesn't flow, I guess, where a maid was telling us a bunch of stories about a white-haired girl and a bunch of tragedies that are associated with the house that always happens to her for some reason. Usually always something involving love or something. And then, you know, bad things happen. And I guess like as it turns out though, even though the story was making us think we were the white-haired girl, we weren't. We were actually Michelle, a character that happened, or a character that was in the fourth story, as it turns out was a fake. And now the fifth story is the real story, and a story about the maid, who turns out her real name is Giselle, and Michelle, which seems to have a different curse than what he appeared to have in the fourth story. A lot of things happen. I mean, basically, I'm trying to think, like, Giselle, like, was a maid who came from, like, a merchant family, but didn't have a lot of money. Her sister wants to be married off to nobility. Her mother's working at the shop, so she goes to, like, a mansion or whatever to work for a noble family, the Bollingers, I guess. But let's just say, I mean, you know, the head of the household had other plans, you know? He didn't just do it out of the goodness of his own heart. Let's just say he took advantage of the situation. But then, you know, then the affair, I guess, was found out, and then she was sent to a mansion in the woods where Michelle resides, who apparently is banished to this house for some reason. Well, we kind of know the reason was because his pale skin and red eyes, his albinoism, I guess. At the time, anyway, in 1099, I assume they think he's a demon, I guess, and therefore he was just, you know, isolated in this house by himself for many years. His father apparently thinks he's dead, I guess. Apparently some kind of fake death thing going on. But everyone thinks he's cursed, so he stays at his house. You know, Giselle, Michelle, at first didn't get along, let's just say. But, you know, things happen, and then they finally are warming up to each other. You know, after a lot of very dramatic stuff happened, I guess. Let's just say. But yeah, but now they're actually getting along. So let's just continue. With each passing day, it grew less and less unusual having someone or that's weird. That's a weird sentence. With each passing day, it grew less and less unusual having Giselle always at my side. Okay, so let me read that. Or from the perspective of Michelle again. That's also always been a thing, where we just keep jumping perspectives from Giselle to Michelle, I guess. I began more freely engaging in silliness, speaking my mind and showing emotion. I could say her name, and Giselle would turn around and smile at me, an unimaginable sight not long ago, because I literally put a knife to her neck for that one time. For 10 years I had lived alone. Solitude had been my normal, but that was very rapidly changing at her hands. We were continually getting closer, yes, but not a romantic sense. If I had to describe it, I would say good friends was probably the most apt. Time continued to press on, our relationship remaining relatively stable. Eventually, summer came, bringing with it the longest periods of sunlight I'd experienced in many years. Then the leaves began falling from the trees, and before long, the world grew cold and dreary. That winter, the fireplace was never without a crackling blaze in its belly. The boiled wine we drank was undoubtedly middling and cheap. But she said with a smile, I had never had good wine this good before. And though I didn't say anything, I felt the same way. The sun set much earlier, and having stopped using candles, we found ourselves habitually gathering around the fireplace when it grew dark. CG. Reading a story by the fireplace like this almost makes it feel like we're in another world, doesn't it, Master? I bet that's why troubadours perform at pubs, so they can be near the fire. Or because there's ale. Drunkenness makes even bad singing and storytelling pleasant to the ears. Oh, you're such a cynic. But that's okay. Say, yes? Do you remember when I first arrived here? When I was cleaning the library. Please don't tell me you're bringing the obese rat incident back up. Yes, the obese rat incident. No, not that. Before that. Before we could actually talk to each other. I believe I suggested we read something together if you ever felt the inclination. You might have. I can't say I remember. Are you sure about that? You turned down my proposal saying I was wasting my time. But look, it actually happened. Even if you don't remember, I'm sure you never thought this moment would come. I was, for the most part, focused on making sure things didn't get any worse between us. But to be honest, I didn't expect there would ever actually come a time we would sit shoulder to shoulder and read a book. You never know how things might pan out. I actually do remember. I remember how I pushed her away, how much I mistrusted her. I was nothing but hostile toward her. People change. And perhaps if they can, so can the future. This is... I don't know, that sounds very cliche. I'm just waiting for when things go bad. I mean, you expect it. This is a game about tragedy. We've seen so many tragedies already. It's gonna happen. Maybe I can hope that unlike our relationship, there's a chance the future might take a turn for the better. Is something the matter? I don't much care for hypotheticals, but if by some chance I were someday to be able to return to that house, should that time come, that house is home to her nightmares. Even if it didn't happen until after my father was gone, it wouldn't erase what he had done to her there. He acts like nothing's wrong though. I don't know. Are wounds healed, or do they still remain? Should that time come, if that day comes, I will do what I can to ensure you have a comfortable life in the city. Though I will not be able to inherit the estate, I can work something out. I see. Thank you very much. But if you would be comfortable doing so, I would be pleased if you were to join me. I mean, as a servant. Oh, yes, as a servant. Not as an equal. You know, as I said before, not as an equal, as a servant. As a servant. Yes, a servant. We're, short on hands. Yes, of course. That's all it was. I see. A servant. Do I really need to repeat myself? Yes, as a servant. Alright, sure. I think I will. I would like to accompany you, Master. How exciting. I'm sure a wonderful future awaits us. I pray so. Now back to the story. I believe we had just got to the point where the knight set out to defeat the monster and save the princess. I bet he was a big, buff, muscular knight. Let's not talk about how muscular he was. Because I'm not muscular, you're challenging my masculinity. She let out a gentle laugh, and I thought I smelled something sweet on her breath. Was it her scent? Or perhaps just my imagination? I had no way of knowing. We sat so close, even the slightest shift seemed sufficient to allow me to hear the sound of her heartbeat, causing mine to accelerate. It goes doki doki. Curiosities flooded my mind. What might she be thinking right now? What does she think about me? As much as I tried to banish them, I frustratingly failed. Frustratingly failed. I was just getting caught up in the moment. I had just briefly lost my way. Don't lose your way. Whenever, I don't know, I keep doing that. Every time I read a sentence that says, don't lose your way, it just reminds me of that song from Kill la Kill. I never really watched the full anime to its entirety, really, but I know the song. Don't lose your way in your mind. Na 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 na. I don't know the rest of the lyrics, but it's a weird, it's a very catchy song, but it's in English, which reminds me of Persona, actually, the Persona songs. That's also similar. Very good songs, but it's like a Japanese singer trying to sing in English, so the accent is very noticeable. But anyway. Though I tried to convince myself otherwise, it was all in vain. When had my pulse gone so rapid? When had my skin gone so flushed? When, how, why was this happening to me? I thought I had already learned my lesson about having feelings for someone else. Interesting. Does that mean he had a crush 10 years ago on someone else, maybe? I don't know. Before long, winter retreated and our second spring came to take its place. A full year had passed since we had resumed living together. And I don't think it was my imagination that this year felt much warmer than last. Spring seemed to have arrived a bit earlier than in previous years. One night, when the breeze carried on it a pleasant residual warmth, Giselle escorted me out to the garden. Come on, master, hurry up. It's the middle of the night. What's so important? I just found it myself, and I couldn't wait until morning. A rose. It blossomed. A rose. Rose, eh? Rose is always in the garden. And we've seen in all the other stories, you know, somehow the garden always involves a rose of some sort. Giselle, over the past year, cleaned up the red nest of weeds that has been strangling the garden. Off to the side of a small plot of turned soil, swaying in the wind beneath the moonlight, was a single red rose. When did you... Last year, I requested flower seeds, but I just couldn't get them to grow, and I was starting to think they would never would. But look, it's only one, but it did. I had no idea. Of course you didn't. I didn't tell you. Why would you keep it from me? I wanted to make it a gift for you, master. What? Why? Roses make wonderful gifts, supposedly. No, that's not what I meant. Why me? I mean, you're the only one here. Who else am I gonna give it to? I haven't given you anything. I'll consider it a symbol of my hope that we'll still be this close another year from now. If we are, then this is yours. I don't follow her reasoning. I don't follow it at all, but the sight of the deep red rose, almost melting into the dark night, was perhaps the most wondrous thing I had ever seen in my life. I never understood why some people found flowers so enchanting. They were always just plants to me. You know? It's plants or their photosynthesis. But that one on that night was undeniably beautiful, majestic. And like a young child seeing a flower for the very first time, my hand automatically reached out for it. Not knowing the proper way to appreciate flowers, I didn't gently caress its petals or take in its fragrance, but snapped its stem. Oh, you picked it? Are you going to bring it back to your room? When I finally processed her question, that's when I realized I probably should have left it to grow in the garden. On the base of its stem, where I had plucked it, a droplet succumbed to gravity and fell to the earth. With it came the delayed realization I had delayed the plant's life, just like the touch of death. In the fourth story, anyway. But it was overpowered by childish possessiveness. The stunning flower was mine. Moonlight trickled down from the heavens, giving a gentle bluish tint to my hands, and a smile on her face. You're gonna need a vase then. Give me just a minute. For the briefest moment, the moonlight must have played a trick on my mind. Interesting. Okay, so this is a similar CG as we saw before in the fourth story, but of course this time it's Giselle, not the white-haired girl. Same hand, by the way. The art of the hand is like literally they copy and pasted and put it on the top layer of their like Photoshop program. But anyway, master, what on earth am I doing? A look of bewilderment filled Giselle's face, just inches from mine, which hammered in the reality of what I had just done. The thought had just crossed my mind that perhaps her black hair might prove a good backdrop for the rose, but it was supposed to remain a simple fancy. Well, what was that about? An excuse. I need a good excuse. A drawing. A drawing? Right. I would like to preserve it on the canvas. What? I mean, the rose on its own does not make a very compelling picture, so I would like to include you as an accessory. Yes, you're the accessory. The rose is the picture. You're the accessory. Wait, you want to draw me too? merely as a background element, yes. Okay, now he's just being soon today. You're slightly more interesting. You're slightly more interesting in the face. That's all. I've never seen you draw anything before. I just never got the urge. You know how? Many years ago, my brother taught me. I don't think I can handle being a model. I've never had a drawing done of me before. You'll probably be better off with just a rose. You gave it to me, didn't you? That means I'm free to do with it as I please. I did. Didn't mean to sound so rude. I had no interest in drawing the rose, but I couldn't just take it back either. Soon, dere. Giselle has shrunk back quite visibly, and I couldn't bring myself to look her in the eyes. So I had fled to the cellar in search of supplies to escape the oppressive awkwardness. At the far wall, I found a rectangular panel of wood and several sticks of charcoal. My materials were obviously nothing compared to what a court artist might use, but I was clearly not getting better to do the portrait any kind of justice. What am I doing? I want to bury my head in the sand. That's what ostriches do, right? Do they actually? Now, for some reason, I'm thinking like, they do. I think ostriches do bury their heads, because you always hear it all the time, right? But for some reason, I'm thinking like there's a myth associated with that, or something. Like they put their heads in the hole for some other reason, or I don't know. Anyway, Giselle was waiting for me in the stained glass chamber. It seemed she was still just as uncomfortable as when I had left her. She gave me a fleeting glance before averting her gaze again. If only she would laugh or make a scene like usual, it would make things so much easier. Why does she have to choose now to start acting meek? What should I be doing? Just stand still with your shocked expression, just like, don't move a muscle. Don't even blink. Stay perfectly still, please. Do you need me to pose or anything? No, just get comfortable. Look away. Why? It's hard to work when you're watching me. What? I feel like I have to sneeze. Hold it in, please. Really? Yeah, hold it, sneeze. What now? Can I see it? I've barely drawn anything yet. As long as our eyes didn't meet, I was able to observe her, and my gaze was quite clearly not focused on the rose, but Giselle. At first I regretted my in-the-moment proposition. I was beginning to think it hadn't been such a bad idea. Without some sort of pretext, I would never have been able to examine her so intently. I didn't have that kind of courage. This isn't like me. But what was like me? Did I prefer being a sharp-tongued, unapproachable recluse? Was that what I wanted to strive for? Was that my character archetype? Giselle was like a gale. Her mere presence dispersed the gloomy cloud that always hovered around me. Thinking about it, it's practically a miracle that we ever ended up so comfortable around each other. That she's still here right now. Light from the moon spilled through the stained glass window, taking on a multitude of pale tones before falling on her white skin and jaded eyes. I keep saying jaded, not jaded. Jaded means something else. Just jade eyes. I stopped sketching at some point. What in the world was going on? One of my roses had finally bloomed, which I thought would put a smile on Michelle's face. But rather than improve his mood, it had made him go all strange. It had made him say he wanted to draw something. I'd never seen Michelle draw anything before. I can't sit still. I try to sneak peeks of him every once in a while, but anytime our eyes met, he gave me a stern look that way stare. So I ended up spending a whole lot of time looking at an archangel in the stained glass window. What could he be thinking? Could this be thanks for the rose? I'm pretty sure he's not the type who would consider a drawing an expression of gratitude, though. If I'm wrong about that, it'll turn my whole world upside down. Maybe he wanted to draw me? No, not possible. That would turn the world upside down even faster. He couldn't. We're close to be sure, but we're not that kind of close, you know? We gotta friend zone each other, you know? Even though we're literally the only two people in this house. And we're of very similar age. I don't know. All I'm saying is that statistically, actually, you're more likely to marry someone who you live nearby. You know, if you live near each other, you're more likely to actually get engaged. But anyway, I don't know how that stats work. Actually, it might be obviously biased because obviously maybe there's some way to measure it that obviously skews it in a certain way. But anyway, but that makes it sound like Michelle's attracted to me. It can't be. There's no way. No way. There's absolutely no way. He compares me to an obese rat and calls me an amateur at chess, laughing while he crushes me. Well, maybe he's a bit of an S, you know? What do you call it? You know, S&M? Anyway. But that's not what this is it? Also, I believe the obese rat thing. Well, well, actually, yeah, he said like, he did compare her to a obese rat, but that's not what he meant. He meant, no, he compared her boobs to an obese rat, but obviously he couldn't say that, so he just said she was fat, I guess. I don't know. Huh? Oh, guess? If it's too much trouble, you're free to leave. This might, well, take a very long time to complete. Oh, no trouble. You had a very stern look on your face is all. I was doing that bad a job of hiding it. I don't want to force you to do anything you don't want. It was foolish of me to ask you, I'm sorry. Honestly, it's no trouble, I mean it. You just took me by surprise, that's all. I'm not even that great of an artist to begin with. That's not a talent I was blessed with. If I'm being honest with myself, I can't imagine anyone would be pleased to have bad art drawn of them. You know, you just like, after hours, you just turn the portrait, and it's just like a stick figure. Wouldn't that be funny? Like a stick figure, like there's a rose, you know, like a circle drawn on the head. And that's all it is. Whoops. What was he getting so negative about? I wasn't the only one making a face. His head was turned slightly downward, a forlorn shimmer in his eyes. I had never seen him make that face before. He resembled a child who had just been scorned by his mother. I wasn't at all angry or displeased with him. I was just fine, honestly. How did you get through to him? I am pleased. It doesn't matter how it turns out. You drew it for me, master. Whether it's good or bad is irrelevant. I would... But the moonlight shining through the stained glass window was so enchanting. I lost myself in it. I would be happy with anything drawn for me by the man I love. What? Nani? For an instant, time froze. Zaworudo! And then Dio comes in. There's a bunch of knives that... No, By the time I realized what I had just said, my mind had gone blank and I couldn't form a coherent thought. I mean, like, you know, like family. You're like an older brother to me. Ah, yeah, sibling zoned. Or not really sibling, it's just friend zone, I guess. Anyway, I meant love like love for a brother. Yes. Hey, say something, master. Give me your usual exasperated sigh. Come on now. Go on, give me your best yada yada. You know, your best good grief, and then hurry me out of the window. Come on, please, show me some disappointment. Ha 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 ha. Master. When the wood panel he was using as a canvas and the charcoal in his hand crashed to the hard chapel floor, the clattering was so loud I jumped. I didn't have the presence of mind to wonder why he had knocked over the canvas, why his hands appeared to be shaking. Let me help you with that. I stepped towards him. And when I did, the moonlight shining down upon us intensified. And our gazes are of jade and ruby, intertwined. Okay, I guess both of them are saying that. How do you narrate both voices at the same time? I guess, well, I'm thinking like, you know, obviously this isn't like an ebook or anything. But like, I guess you would do it in post-recording. You know, you'd like say it twice, and record them, and put them in harmony. Anyway, I can't do that. At least not live. I guess it kind of loses its effect. But anyway, isn't this? You know, I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm ashamed. This is the first thing I thought of, but she has like a big cleavage. Maybe it really is obese rats. I didn't notice how big her boobs are. Anyway. There was a visible rosiness in his ethereally pale cheeks. Master? Flickers of panic darted beneath the surface of his normally stony red eyes. They were trembling as he looked over at me. I was at a loss of words. We must have been under the moon's spell. We weren't thinking. We stood alone in a frozen world, robbed of all rational thought. Riding the moonlight's current, his hand fell against my cheek. It was much colder than I expected. It felt pleasant on my flushed skin. As we drew closer, I could feel the warmth emanating from his body, and I'm sure he could feel mine. The beating of my heart, too. His breathing stopped for a moment, then he gulped. He brought his head in. I closed my eyes and... Uh-oh. Ah! Then I shouted away with all my strength. Ah. Ugh. Michelle rolled back, knocked his head on the side of a pew, began groaning in pain, which is when I finally realized what I had done. What have you done, Giselle? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Are you hurt? I'm fine. Sorry, you startled me. I really truly didn't mean to lock you down. You should go back to your room. I'm sorry for all the trouble I've caused you tonight. Get some rest. Good night. Now here goes another misunderstanding, by the way. I mean, all we know as the audience is, again, more dramatic irony. I think this game loves dramatic irony. But, like, obviously, she pushed him away because of her trauma. But probably what he took it from that is that actually, even though it seemed like he was falling in love with her, she doesn't seem to feel the same way, at least from his perspective. So probably that's what he thought. That's what happened. So, like, it's time for it's time for good old misunderstandings and miscommunications. Here we go again. He turned away, marching off into the corridor, enshrouded in darkness. There was a heavy air of loneliness hanging over him, which gave rise to phantom images of him actually disappearing into the darkness. I had caused that, but I hadn't realized until it was too late. It felt like someone was sitting on my chest. Why would I ever do that to him? Of course I'm going to hurt him reacting like that. Maybe I was hoping he would say it was just one of his jokes. Do I want it to be a joke? I had that option. I could pretend nothing ever happened and tomorrow go back to the way things were before. But if I did that, there was almost certainly never be a second chance. You were okay with it. You wanted it, Giselle. You're lying to yourself. You're the one who said you loved him. And that was no mistake. You wouldn't sit shoulder to shoulder and read a book with someone you didn't care for. You wouldn't enjoy eating supper with someone you didn't like. You wouldn't be able to live happily with someone you didn't love. You have to go after him, find him and tell him the truth. Run, 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 run. What am I doing, for God's sake? I am not in my right mind. Something about me was off today. I couldn't control myself. I was saying things I didn't mean, doing things I didn't intend to. I never meant to do that. But at this point, I had no choice but to admit my feelings. I couldn't pretend I didn't know what they were anymore. How long had I felt this way? A week? A month? 6 months? Or maybe a full year? Had they already developed when we started anew? No, the when didn't matter. It didn't change the facts. I was still attracted to her, regardless of when it had begun. But she pushed me away. Quite literally. Yeah, very, very literally. So sometimes it's metaphorically. This one is quite literally. I sighed to myself. Why should I be disappointed? She was nothing like me. I was reclusive and unsociable. She was the exact opposite. She was the kind of person she would confidently tell someone how she felt. And she had done exactly that. Said I was like a brother. But I hadn't listened. As a matter of fact, would I have been any more presumptuous? I don't deserve to love anyone. It's better this way. Master. Here, repeat the CG again. What? I told you to go back to your room. Master, I need you to listen to me, okay? What? About what just happened. That doesn't count. You can't count any of that. It doesn't count. Huh? That I said I loved you and then I shoved you. They don't count. Right. I was planning to forget that anyway. So don't worry. No, that's not what I mean. What I'm saying is it's not something I should have said on a whim just because the moonlight is kind of pretty tonight. It wasn't supposed to be so casual. The way I said it doesn't get across at all how much I really care about you. It should have been something with more impact, rather. Me looking you straight in the eyes, my heart jumping around like it's on fire. That's how I should have said it. What are you? I'm saying, I want you to give me one more chance to do it right. Giselle. Calm yourself. I'm calm. In no sense of the word are you calm. Fine then, I'm not calm, but I am clear-headed and I mean every last word. Listen very carefully. I love you. I love you so much I feel like my heart is going to explode. What? Huh? You mean, like family? That's what you said. Like a brother, right? Which brings flashbacks to like the first story involving Mel and Nelly. Anyway. Romantic love, romantic. I'm not trying to friend zone you. Jeez, no. I wasn't upset back there. No, I was elated. What? It's a weird way of showing it. My mind couldn't keep up with what it was hearing. I thought out of breath where she stood. Giselle was frantically insisting that she loved me. Was I dreaming? I just fell asleep and just, had a dream. Master, how do you... I would like to hear. How do you feel about me? And assuming I interpreted that correctly, you're going to go in for a kiss back there, right? Right, so I can take that as your answer? Giselle looked up at me with bleary eyes. She had feelings for me. Okay, so it's a lot faster than that. I mean, it makes sense. All those misunderstandings. We already went through the whole gambit of miscommunications and like that sort of thing. So I guess this one was resolved pretty quickly. It was a miracle. I could hardly breathe. It felt like someone had stuck their hand in my chest and was squeezing my heart. I just had to say yes, and a smile would spread across her face. I could bring her joy, and all it would take was a single word. I had no reason to say no. My happiness was standing right there in front of me. What more could I ask for? All I had to do was reach out and claim it for myself. I tried to do exactly that in the chapel, but I could do it again. I loved her. I was a twisted man, cast out of the world and left with nothing. I had no way to make her happy. But still Don't tell me you've forgotten what you are. Tell me. There's no moonlight to give me that nudge. Do not feel that way about you. What? Ah, damn it! I got confused for a moment. I apologize for the misunderstanding it seems to have caused. Never mind. Oh, the color drained from her like a flower wilting before my eyes. A heavy sigh spilled from her lips. Her jade eyes swayed lifelessly back and forth. I hadn't thought mere love could possibly have such weight, but she looked as though she had just told her she was to be executed. I see. I'm sorry. I let it get to my head. Sorry for making such a racket. Really, God, what was I thinking? I got way ahead of myself there. Her faux energy hurt to watch. I had to hurt her, and this was the result. You wanted to protect yourself, even if it meant hurting her. I assume this is the witch's whispering, I guess. But look where that got you. You would have been better off just going with it. Because when she learned the truth, she would have pushed you away anyway. I'm sorry, I'll be going now. Sorry for barging in on you like that. She made her way into the shadows toward the door. There, you did it. You preserved your peace. I got the feeling she would never turn back. Your mistake was ever getting close to anyone. What I always wanted was right there in front of me, and I was so close to obtaining it. And you pushed her away. This time, metaphorically. She pushed him physically. He pushed her away, metaphorically. I actually did love her. She would never love the real you. No, she couldn't. You're disgusting. I can't believe you actually had the gall to fall for me. Good night, Master. She was leaving. I wanted her here, and she was leaving. I simply had to acknowledge my feelings and she would come back. Was I really content to let her go? In my weakness, I mistreated her. I hurt her. I let her go and I was about to lose her. Even though she said she loved me, and I felt the same way. Wait, please don't go. Your voice is shaking like a scared child's. What are you hoping to tell her like that? She was different. She was probably... No. She absolutely was nothing like anyone in my past. She won't be any different. I decided I would just try just one more time. To believe in myself and to believe in someone else. Believe in the you that believes in me, that believes in you, that believes in me, or is it to believe in me? Believe in the one. Believe in the person that believes in you, that believes in me, that believes in you. Anyway, I lied. Usuda, Giselle, from the bottom of my heart, you'll regret this. No, I won't. I sincerely love you. Okay. Well, here you go. It keeps looping back and forth. It's like a Phoenix Wright court case, you know. Objection! Hold it! Take that! Back and forth. The fragrance of rose enveloped me. Their arms wrapped around my chest were imbued with strength and shaking like mad, as though the slightest touch might shatter them. This CG again. But obviously she's crying this time. What? Why did you just say that in the first place? Let's go through this like carnival, or another. What am I trying to say? It's like carousel. That's what I'm trying to say. Carousel. You know, the little ride that like spins around with the plastic horses or whatever. Or is it plastic? I assume it's plastic. Anyway. She said in a quavering, sniveling voice that's just inches from my ear. I lacked sufficient control over my mind or body to return her embrace, to run my hands through her hair, or to do anything more than support her weight. I'm sorry. Jerk, bully, brute, baka. You don't get to play this one off as a joke. I'm truly, sincerely sorry. You've given me two different stories. Tell me, which one's the truth? You were just confused or you actually love me? I want to hear you say it again. The truth is I love you. Again. I love you. Without fumbling this time. I love you, as I've said several times now. Not good enough. Yeah, again. Have mercy, please. I'm about to die of humiliation. Can I really believe you this time? You're not going to say you were lying again? No, I won't. Then we both feel the same way about each other. Shockingly enough. Shockingly enough. But what's there to be shocked about? I didn't think there was anything likable about me. You really have to do something about that pessimism. I'll try. I'm in heaven. I'm so happy I could cry. I'm literally crying right now. You are all over me. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. When you first said no, everything went black. I wasn't sure what I would do anymore. I lost all hope. I really do feel bad about that. But you had a change of heart. Now you're willing to have me. Yes. And everything I bring with me. That was the idea. Absolutely everything, right? You're pushing that point rather hard. I have a request. It's something I don't think I could ask you at any time but now, but while we're in the moment, I will do anything as long as it's within my ability. Tell me, what is it? Will you look at my naked body? Without any context, it's a little weird, I guess. In fact, it's super weird, but it makes sense. I know what she's getting at. What? More specifically, my scars. You are going to have to see them eventually. In which case, I will like that to be now. A year ago, I have refused to look at her scars. I have been certain I wouldn't be able to accept what they represented, the abuse my father had subjected her to. If possible, I would have preferred never having to face that. But I, more than anyone, needed to know. It was my responsibility. I had to accept reality, not grimace or avert my eyes. Now, what I wonder is they're going to show a CG of that. I mean, I understand the context of this. This is not meant to be erotic at all. In fact, it's the opposite. But, like, if they show a naked body on my stream, hopefully I don't get banned. Anyway, I had to face up to what had been done to her. Okay. Please do not show any nipples. That's all I have to ask. Or maybe just a black screen. I mean, black screen would just be nice. Just black screen. I couldn't bring myself to look at her as she hesitantly disrobed. The sound of her clothes rustling made me feel as though I was doing something incredibly improper. As much as I tried to feign calm, I was so tense my joints were practically creaking and my heart felt like it was being stepped on. I feel like I'm made of stone. I'm ready. You can turn around. Alright. I'll count to 10. This is like hide and seek. 1, 2... No. She's laughing at me. I feel a whole lot better seeing you so nervous. I'm turning around. Okay. Okay, no nipples. I mean, it's a naked body, but there's no nipples, so don't ban me, please. It's fine. Her head was tilted down just enough to keep me from making out her expression, but she couldn't hide the pink flush spreading across her cheeks. Now what I'm thinking, well, I mean, she looks fine from the front, but maybe it's not drawn? I don't know, because she mentioned a lot of scars, right? Probably her or Michelle's father mentioned using a knife on her, you know, and everything. He even like carved a word on her body. I don't know how that would work, by the way. I mean, obviously that'd be incredibly painful, and I don't know if you could keep still for that, but that's what he did, I guess. It contrasted well against her white but not excessively pale skin, as did her jet black hair. Sorry, it's not anything nice to look at. In what way was this not a pleasant sight? I'd never been more entranced by anything in my entire life. She was stunning. In no measure of comparison, but I was certain the same sight of any other woman in the world would not have had the same effect on me. I could say as much with confidence, despite having never seen another woman nude. You see, the internet hasn't been invented yet in 1099, so I guess, or not even just the internet, I guess even before that there were like, I guess magazines. Magazines have also never been invented yet. So I guess, I don't know, trying to think, this is just incredibly, the wrong situation to mention this, but like, what would porn look like in 1099? I guess paintings? People go paint things? Anyway. Hypnotized, I could take my eyes off the gentle curves of her body. Were I more socially inclined, perhaps I could have told her she was pretty, which perhaps would have brought a sheepish smile on her face. Though I wanted to, my throat was dry as dust, and all I could manage to produce were incoherent rasps. Please say something. I'm hideous, aren't I? I'm unclean. You're not hideous. You mean it. I mean it. Why would you think so? Because You are not unclean, not in the slightest. You mean it? I do. Even seeing this. Giselle's eyes slid downward, a trace of fear lurking just beneath the surface. Following her lead, I dropped my gaze to her lower body, and there I saw her scars. Swollen, red and black gashes, still not healed after more than a year, defiled her white flesh. Okay, so there you go. You mentioned like her inner thighs is when she got slashed, I guess, or where she got slashed. As she had described for me, her lines were arranged to form letters carved into her skin. So that's why I said I would have to see them eventually. My instincts told me there were wounds she would carry for the rest of her life. I felt nauseous, heartbroken, infuriated. The fact that the person who had done this was just out of my reach. The fact that I could do nothing for her. What went through my father's mind when he looked at these? What did he gain from giving her these wounds? Why did he have to do this to her? Why my father of all people? Giselle was the one of the scars. Giselle was the one in pain, but I felt like someone had shoved a handful of needles into my chest. Dozens of thick metal stakes piercing the walls of my heart, blood streaming through me like a river. If I didn't force myself to face it, I was liable to run. What was the right thing to say? What was I supposed to tell her? As hard as I thought, I couldn't come up with an answer. All I came up was an intense frustration. It killed me that I couldn't take these scars from her. but I couldn't give my father a piece of my mind, and my knife in his throat. You are in no way hideous, no matter what marks are left in your body. It took all I had to form that single sentence. Thank goodness. I'm so glad to hear that. When I was down in that village, they didn't say it didn't matter what they did to me because I was already dirty. That made me think I had reached a point where I was so tainted, anyone could see it. I'm sorry. Why should you apologize? You were frowning really intensely. I thought I might have made you mad. No, I'm not angry at you. I'm angry at my father, the villagers, and myself. May I touch them? Touch the scars, I guess. She said, I just didn't pay attention. No, she said, you may. My hands were trembling, but I knew I wouldn't be doing her any favors by hesitating. As soon as my fingertips brushed her skin, she shuddered. Does it hurt? No, there hasn't been pain in some time. I could feel her trembling when I touched her. It didn't seem like it was going to subside anytime soon. Soon she began whimpering softly. Her lips moved as though she was trying to say something, but the best she managed was a few strained gasps. Tears had begun welling up in her eyes as well. I feel like I'm in heaven right now, but I also kind of hate myself. Hate yourself? Well, why? Because I can't stop shaking. I'm overjoyed to feel your touch, but I can't control my body. I know you're nothing like that, but I keep seeing flashes of you doing other things in my mind. It kills me that my body won't react the way I feel in my heart. Well, you know, it's a common thing when you face that kind of trauma. But anyway, I was foolish to ever thought these wounds might have healed. Just as scars remain in her body, so too did they remain in her heart. Unlike the physical wounds, though, the ones inside her seemed to still be raw and bleeding. She just did a good job of acting normal that had begun to think she might have gotten past them. Of course not, you blind fool. You shoved me back there because it brought back those memories. That's right. I'm sorry. I'm really truly sorry. Why are you apologizing? I should be the one. Do you have the desire to place a curse on him? What? Do you want to curse Antonin? If you so desire, I might be able to make it happen. Cast a curse on him, perhaps even a fatal one. I ignore the fact that he's my father. I don't consider that man family anymore. I want you to be honest with me. If hypothetically, such a thing were possible, would you want to curse him? No, I would not want that. Why not? You have every right to take revenge. What that man did, he deserves punishment. He inflicted so much pain on you. You're still shaking more than a year later, and you just let him get away with it with the goodness of your heart? Hypothetically, if you wanted to curse him, I wouldn't do it even hypothetically. And not out of the goodness of my heart. I'm just a coward. A coward? If curses were real, and he were to die by one, then I would never ever be able to forget. If my resentment for him took his life, that would mean he had damaged me so permanently, I was never able to get past it. I don't want that. I want to be able to forget. I'm still shaking now, but one day, I want to be able to proclaim proudly that it no longer has any control over me. But I appreciate the sentiment. Setting aside your choice of method, you asked out of concern, and that's more than enough for me. I saw a smile spread across her lips, but all it inspired in me was powerlessness. She was putting on an act. Was the sentiment really more than enough? Of course not. Not when she was so trembling so much. But what was I to do? What was I unable to leave this house and helpless against the will of the malingerers to do? I was incapable of assuaging. I say that word? I don't know how to say assuaging? Assuaging, right? Assuaging? I was incapable of assuaging her pain, wasn't I? I couldn't do anything, could I? Before I throw in the towel, I need to take some real time to think. To stop running from the problem. To figure out a real way to give her what she wants. That doesn't involve curses or angry words. There has to be something only I can do. Giselle. I took the hand that had been tracing her scars and set it around her waist. Even now, her trembling showed no signs of abating. It would never The one thing I could do, I would never hurt you again, was to wrap her trembling body in my arms. I want you here with me. All I ask of you from now is to be at my side. You can be scared, and you can quiver, but please don't apologize for it. Please don't feel bad about it. I promise not to turn my head away from your pain. So I ask of you, try not to keep it buried. I have no power or influence. I don't know all the right things to say. I am a man with nothing to his name. But one thing I do have is a heartfelt desire to do whatever I can for you. As soon as I tightened my grip around her waist, she lurched forward, throwing her arms around me. Muffled whimpers resonate against my shoulder where she had buried her head. Wait. I assume, yeah, she's crying. Eventually, they grew into unfettered sobs. How do you make crying sounds? Like, I always do that, but this is all what I always do. Whenever there's like a line I have to read about someone just crying, I always just go, wait, you know, so that's not even real crying. I'm just like making fun of crying, I guess. I don't know. Just like laughing on demand, I can't just cry on demand. I don't know how do you cry on demand? It's a hard thing to do. I don't know how voice actors do it. Anyway, and my bedchamber was enveloped in the sound of weeping. She cried like a little child. The usually strong-willed, cheerful, optimistic Giselle wailed from the depths of her soul. This past year, she had constantly been nudging me forward. It was always her leading the way. There had undoubtedly been moments where she had wanted to cry like this but couldn't. So starting now, I was going to try and support her too. I was sure I would mess something up, as I had little experience being caring. I would probably anger her, probably stress her out, and probably make her cry. But I found my resolve. I had overcome my hesitation. I was sure I could do it. That I could create a place where she could find peace. I could surely. Giselle didn't stop crying until the sun had begun peeking over the horizon. I had, as I said, not looked away, simply holding her in silence. She had a decidedly not childlike frame, but she seemed incredibly small in my arms. We felt each other's warmth through my clothes. Between sniffles, Giselle said softly, "One day, I'm certain, I'll be able to without any hesitation. Be properly joined with you, and it'll be wonderful." Yes, joined with you. It's a very PG way of saying, you know, sex. Anyway, right now I still can't control the shaking. But eventually, I want to be able to put my hands on you too. The affection infused each and every word was palpable. Some time later, she drifted off to sleep, exhausted. I prayed from the bottom of my heart that at least tonight she would have pleasant dreams. Also, I don't know, some of my comments might have ruined the moment, but that was a very serious moment, by the way. Very serious. Serious, heartwarming moment, I guess. Not really heartwarming. Well, slightly heartwarming. It's a bittersweet, I guess. Bittersweet moment. Morning? No. Afternoon? Master? Good morning. Good morning. Oh, come on. Put a little more oomph into it. Same Giselle as always. I must say, last night was something, Master. I didn't know you had that in you. I was just thinking about it. Ow! Hey, that hurt. What was that for? I was struck with an insatiable urge to whack you. Whatever happens, your heartfelt desire to do whatever you can for me. I don't think hitting me counts. That's domestic abuse. You're tough enough to get over a little bonk. It's just a small bonk. Not like actual, hitting. It's just small. You'll be so nice yesterday. Where did that go? So, would you like to explain why you're making dirty jokes first thing in the morning? Yeah, I was trying to lighten the mood to hide my embarrassment. Fair enough. Alright, but could you not joke about that in the future? I didn't actually do anything to you. We just kinda hugged, we cuddled. Reminds me of my Fate Stay Night playthrough. In the censored version, anyway, in the Saber route, that's what the main character did to the heroine. They literally just cuddled instead of like an H scene because it was censored anyway. No, you didn't. Sorry. Say, could I ask you something? Yes? You hardly ever use my name. It makes us feel so distant. Could you do something about that, maybe? Babe. Babe! I wonder how that's translated in Japanese, because, that's always the thing, right? Like, when you ever translate Japanese to English, there's always, like, honorifics and everything. I imagine maybe in a Japanese, script or whatever, she's asking him to use, like, a more, intimate term, basically just to use her first name, instead of adding an honorific, maybe? But it's translated as babe? What do you mean, babe? Well, he's being indirect about it. Probably like instead of saying like Giselle-san or whatever, he say like Giselle-chan, or something. But that's not what she meant. She just wants him to say Giselle, which is again in Japanese culture, saying first names is much more intimate usually. Otherwise, if you're not intimate with each other, or you're not like close to each other, then it's just rude. If you say it, if you don't actually know each other anyway. No. That is not you at all. Just go with my name, please. We've graduated from a master-servant relationship to a romantic relationship, but that is a bit much. Romantic relationship? Exactly, so, in honor of new us, let's make this last, alright? Michelle? Alright. Babe. Again, I don't know how that was translated in the Japanese. Babe? Anyway, at the time, the light that had entered our life seemed unreal and fantastical. But I prayed that it would indeed last. In hope of an equally bright future, I allowed myself to rejoice in the moment, letting the unconquered shadows to lurk in my peripheral remain unseen. Well, that's foreshadowing. Two even more bad things happening back here for a bit, I guess. Blackness consumes the once colorful space. Giselle still stands before me, as she did within the door, but I struggle to reconcile the two scenes. They are both real. They are both her. The lively, spunky girl of the past and the lifeless girl of the present are both Giselle. Also, don't use the word spunky. It's weird. That word it's been forever ruined, by the way. I'm sorry, but like spunky, I don't know, man. As different as they may seem, they are both her. Why don't we stop there? It was a wonderful story. They overcame their troubles and lived happily ever after. Is that not good enough? It could not be worse than where we are now. It couldn't get any worse, right? Famous last words. All we have to do then is to erase the now. Throw everything away and start over from where it was better. You were able to bear them because they weren't your tragedies. And that goes for more than just me. Actually, as a matter of fact, those words apply even better to her than me. The ending is already set in stone. It's already happened. What point is there in watching it again? All that accomplishes is making me relive it all. The ending has not been written. We're both here now, which means our end still lies ahead of us. Then, can I ask you, promise not to let go of my hand, no matter what? No matter what happens, you mustn't let go of my hand. Now I understand. That was a request, even if she didn't perceive it as such. In place of a verbal response, I squeeze her hand in mine. I know where this tale is heading, toward tragedy, as we all know. All the other doors we visited ended in tragedy, and ours is no exception. But perhaps what's waiting at the end of this one is even more dire than I imagined. I was gonna say outbeat? That's not right. That's not the right word. It's gonna even be worse than the other ones, Is what I'm trying to say. The door to our past swings open once more, behind which lies the end of me and the beginning of her. Outmatch? What was I trying to say? So I'm saying it's gonna outmatch? Out something? I don't know. I don't know what word I was trying to say, but basically it's gonna, you know, it's gonna be even worse. It's gonna be better in the sense that it's gonna be a bigger tragedy, I guess. I don't know what I'm trying to say. What's the word? I'm trying to think of the word. It's on the tip of my tongue. Outlast? Outbeat? Out something. I hate it. My brain just doesn't seem to work, especially when I'm streaming. You know, somehow my vocabulary just like dwindles for some reason when I stream. It's probably because I talk so much that, you know, my brain is just occupied with talking. I do less thinking, I do more talking, and suddenly I'm just a dummy. Even more so than usual, I must say. Anyway,